At family Easter lunch, my sister gave my seat away, and I ended up eating on the back steps. I didn't even realize what had happened at first, because my brain kept trying to force it into a normal shape. I stood there in the dining room doorway with my foil-covered dish still warm in my hands, the smell of honeyed carrots and ham and that weird sweetbread thing Mom only makes on holidays hitting me all at once. Everyone was already sitting. Plates clinked. Someone laughed too loudly at something my uncle said. And there, at the long table where my chair usually is, third from the end, near the window, was my sister's boyfriend's mom in my spot, smiling up at me like she belonged there. My sister, Chloe, was standing behind her chair, hand resting on the woman's shoulder like she'd placed her there on purpose. And she said, bright casual, like she was telling me where the forks were. "Oh, I gave your seat to Deb. You could just sit out back, yeah?" Like I'd asked to be a takeaway option. Like I was a spare person she could store somewhere until dessert. I felt the heat rush up my neck so fast it made my ears ring. My fingers tightened around the casserole dish until the foil crinkled and the edge dug into my thumb. For a second, I couldn't speak because there were too many eyes and too much noise, and my body did that old thing where it tries to keep you safe by freezing you into politeness. Chloe was already turning away, already moving on, already calling out, "Mom, we need more water," like the moment had been filed under sorted. My mom didn't look up. My dad glanced at me for half a second and then looked away, jaw working like he was chewing something tough. Deb, the new guest in my seat, patted the chair like an apology without words, still smiling, eyes darting around as if she didn't want to be part of whatever this was. And I just stood there with my dish in my hands, feeling stupidly, embarrassingly visible like I'd walked into the wrong house. It was supposed to be easy. That's the lie I tell myself every holiday. This one will be easy. You'll go, you'll eat, you'll smile, you'll leave. No scenes, no spirals, no driving home with your chest tight and your hands shaking on the steering wheel. Easter lunch at my parents' place has always been a thing. Ham, salads, those little chocolate eggs in a bowl that inevitably melt, the yearly family photo in front of the lemon tree out back, my dad making the same joke about the Easter bunnies on a budget this year. Chloe loves it because she loves the performance of family. I dread it because I'm always the person who gets shoved to the edges, so the picture looks neat. I'm 29. Chloe is 26. She's the one who stays close, who pops in for coffees with Mom, who shares TikToks with Dad, who knows the names of their neighbors and the details of their medical appointments. I'm the one who moved out, got a job that doesn't let me drop everything, stopped answering the group chat instantly. I don't even blame Chloe for being closer. I blame her for using that closeness like a weapon, soft, smiling, deniable. The kind of exclusion that gets dismissed as miscommunication if you try to name it. I'd been running late, which didn't help. My shift that morning went long, because of course it did, and I drove across town with my stomach already in knots, reheating that old familiar guilt. If you're late, they'll say you don't care. If you're early, you'll get trapped doing chores. If you don't come, you're the problem. I made a carrot dish the night before. Nothing fancy, just something I could set on the table so I wouldn't feel like a freeloader, and I texted Mom, "On my way, traffic sucks." She replied with a thumbs-up emoji, which in our family is the official symbol of "don't make this my problem." So when I walked in and saw everyone already sitting, part of me went, "Okay, you're late. You missed the seat assignment. This is on you." But then I saw Chloe's face when she said it. That bright, efficient smile. That little tilt of her head, like she was being reasonable. That's when I knew this wasn't an accident. I forced my voice to work. "Sorry, what?" Chloe blinked like she was surprised I needed clarification. "Deb didn't have a place," she said, gesturing at my chair. "And we needed to fit everyone. There's no room, Aaron." There was room. There was literally a chair at the end of the table that my dad always drags in from the study when extra people come. I could see the corner of it leaning against the wall in the hallway like it had been deliberately ignored. I could see the space at the table if someone shifted in half an inch. I could see my own place card. Mom does little place cards sometimes because she likes things to look nice, folded and shoved next to the napkin basket like it had been swept away. I looked at my dad. He stared at the tablecloth as if it held the secrets of the universe. "Mom?" I said, because if anyone was going to correct it, it would be her, right? My mom glanced up finally, smile fixed. Oh, love, just grab a plate and take it outside. The weather's beautiful. Beautiful. Sure. Autumn sun, a bit of wind, cold stone steps. How picturesque for the family that gets to eat inside. I felt my eyes sting, not because I was about to cry, but because my body does that when I get angry and humiliated at the same time. I could feel the words piling up behind my teeth. Why is my seat disposable? Why do you always do this? Why can nobody just say no? Aaron sits there like I'm not an afterthought. But I could also feel the weight of everyone at the table, the way the room was waiting to see if I'd make it a thing. So I did what I've done my whole life. I swallowed it. Okay, I said, and my voice sounded wrong, too thin. Sure. Chloe's shoulders visibly relaxed, like she'd just defused a bomb she planted herself. Thanks, she said too sweetly. I set my dish on the counter, got a plate, and served myself with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Ham, potatoes, salad, a scoop of my carrots, even though suddenly it felt pathetic to eat the thing I brought. The kitchen was warm and smelled like cloves and gravy, and every sound felt louder than it should. Cutlery, laughter, someone's glass hitting the table. I kept my face neutral. I kept my movement steady. I pretended I wasn't being exiled to the backyard like an inconvenient pet. As I walked through the sliding door, I heard my uncle say, "Where's Erin sitting?" And Chloe laughed and said, "Oh, she likes eating outside, she's fine." That sentence hit harder than the seed itself, because it was a lie dressed up as my preference. It rewrote the humiliation into a quirky choice. It gave everyone permission to stop feeling weird about it. Outside, the air was cooler. The back steps were those wide stone ones leading down to the yard, the kind that always feel slightly damp even when they're dry. I sat on the second step, balanced my plate on my knees, and stared at the lawn where plastic eggs were scattered for the little kids to find later. The lemon tree was dropping leaves. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked, steady and annoyed. I could hear the muffled rumble of the family inside through the glass, like I was on the outside of an aquarium watching people eat. My phone buzzed. A text from my friend Talia. "How's Easter? Surviving?" I stared at it, and my throat tightened in a way that made me laugh under my breath. Because of course she knew. Of course I'd already told her the pattern enough times that she could predict the vibe. I typed, got put on the back steps like a spare chair. 3 dots popped up immediately. What the actual F? I didn't reply right away. I took a bite of ham and realized my mouth was so dry I could barely chew. The food tasted like nothing. My hands were cold despite the sun. I tried to focus on small things instead. How the air smelled faintly like smoke from the grill, how the sun warmed the top of my shoulders, how the stone step pressed into my thighs. Anything but the inside of my head looping through that moment. Chloe's casual tone, Mom's smile, Dad's silence. The way Deb sat in my seat without protest. The way everyone laughed and moved on. A few minutes later, the sliding door opened. I looked up, stupidly hopeful for half a second. It was Chloe. She stepped outside, holding a bottle of water like she was doing me a favor. "Here," she said, handing it to me. "Don't sit out here and sulk. You still here." "I'm not sulking." She rolled her eyes. "You always do this. Like it's one lunch." "It's my seat," I said, and my voice was quieter than I intended, because I was trying not to shake. Chloe laughed, short and dismissive. "It's a chair." "It's not a chair," I said, and I could hear the wobble now. "It's you deciding I don't get a place." Chloe's face hardened. "Oh my God, don't start. Deb's my future mother-in-law. She's a guest. She shouldn't have to sit on the back steps." "You still here." "So I should." Chloe opened her mouth, then did that thing she always does. She reframed it as my flaw. "You're being dramatic. Nobody meant anything by it. You're just..." She waved her hand vaguely, as if searching for the polite word. "Sensitive." There it was. The family's favorite exit sign. I felt something snap. Not loud, not explosive, just a clean little break inside my chest. "I'm not sensitive," I said, and my voice was steadier now because anger was holding it up. "I'm being treated like I don't belong." Chloe scoffed. "If you didn't want to eat outside, you could have said something." I laughed, one short, sharp sound. "I did. I asked what was happening. You shut it down, and everyone stared at me like I was about to ruin lunch. Chloe shrugged. That's on you. Stop caring so much about what people think. The hypocrisy of that almost took my breath away. Chloe, who orchestrates every family moment like she's producing a show, was telling me not to care what people think. She glanced back inside through the glass. Just be normal, she said, and went back in, sliding the door shut behind her like she'd closed the topic. I sat there, plate half finished, and felt my hands start to tremble again. Not because I was weak, because my body was full of adrenaline with nowhere to put it. I stared at the reflection of myself in the glass for a second. Me on the steps, shoulders slightly hunched, trying to look smaller, and I hated how familiar that posture was. A little while later, the door opened again. This time it was my grandma. She moved slowly, one hand on the frame for balance. She had a cardigan on even though it wasn't that cold because she's always chilly. She held a napkin in her hand like she'd brought it out for me, and her eyes narrowed when she saw where I was sitting. "Why are you out here?" she asked. I tried to smile. "It's fine, Gran. Just no space." My grandma made a sound in her throat, not quite a scoff, more like a tired exhale. She looked past me at the back steps like she was assessing them as a crime scene. Then she looked back at me, and the softness in her face made my eyes sting properly this time. "Come inside," she said. "Gran." "No," she said, sharper than I expected. "Come inside." I hesitated because the idea of walking back in and making everyone look at me again made my stomach twist. Grandma reached down and took my plate, just took it like she was removing the decision from me. Her hand was small but firm. "You don't eat on the steps," she said. "You're not a dog." The bluntness of it made my throat close. I blinked hard. She walked inside first, carrying my plate like a queen carrying a decree. I followed, feeling like I was walking into a spotlight. As soon as we entered the dining room, the noise dipped. People noticed. Chairs creaked. Cutlery paused. My mom's eyes widened, then flicked to Chloe like she wanted Chloe to fix it. Grandma set my plate down on the table, right in front of the empty chair at the end that had been leaning in the hallway earlier. She pointed at it. "Move that chair," she said to my dad, voice calm but unarguable. "Bring it here." My dad blinked like he'd been caught doing something childish. "Mom, it's fine." "It's not fine," Grandma said, and there was no warmth in it. She looked around the table, slowly, like she was making sure everyone felt seen. "Why is Aaron outside?" Silence. The kind that makes your skin buzz. Chloe laughed awkwardly. "It's not a big deal." Grandma's eyes snapped to her. "Don't," she said, one word, and Chloe shut her mouth like she'd been slapped. My mom jumped in, voice too bright. "We just ran out of chairs, Mom." Aaron didn't mind. "I mind," Grandma said, and I don't believe Aaron didn't mind. I stood there, heart pounding, so hard it felt like it was trying to climb out of my throat. Part of me wanted to disappear. Part of me wanted to cry. A bigger part of me wanted to hold on to the fact that someone finally was calling it what it was. My dad got up silently and went to grab the chair. He dragged it over and set it at the end of the table. It scraped loudly across the floor like punctuation. "Sit," Grandma said to me, gentler now. "Set." My hands were shaking so much I had to tuck them under the table for a second. Deb, the boyfriend's mom, looked uncomfortable, cheeks flushed. "Oh dear," she said softly. "I didn't know. It's not your fault." I managed because honestly it wasn't. She'd walked into a dynamic she didn't create. She gave me a small, apologetic smile. Chloe stared at her plate like it held a script she'd forgotten. My brother kept his eyes down. My uncle cleared his throat and started talking loudly about footy like he could cover the moment with noise. Mom leaned toward me, smiling through clenched teeth. "Are you happy now?" she whispered. The words hit me like a slap. Not because she was upset, because she was blaming me for the discomfort my exclusion created. I looked at her, and for the first time in my life, I didn't rush to soothe her. "No," I whispered back. "I am exhausted." Mom's smile twitched. She turned away quickly, like she hadn't heard. Lunch continued in a strained way for a bit. People started talking again, too loudly, with forced cheer. Chloe avoided my eyes. Dad kept refilling drinks like it was his job to keep the atmosphere from collapsing. Grandma ate quietly, occasionally patting my hand under the table like she was reminding me I existed. I thought that would be the end of it. A moment. A correction. Everyone moves on. But then, after dessert was served, hot cross buns and chocolate eggs, and Mum's trifle, Chloe cornered me in the kitchen while people were outside doing the egg hunt. She closed the pantry door behind her like she wanted privacy, and her face was bright with anger. "You embarrassed me," she hissed. "You stirred the hair." "I didn't do anything." "You did," she said, voice rising. "You sat out there like some sad martyr, and Gran made it a whole thing, and now Deb thinks our family is messed up." I felt my mouth go dry again. "Chloe, you told me to sit on the back steps." Chloe threw her hands up. "Because you were late. Everyone was already sitting." What was I supposed to do, make Deb sit outside? Why was that the only option? I asked. My voice was shaking now, but I didn't back down. There was a chair. There was space. You chose me. Chloe's eyes flashed. "I didn't choose you. You just always take things personally." "It was personal," I said, and the words came out clean. "It was literally about me." Chloe scoffed. "You're jealous." That was so ridiculous it almost made me laugh. Jealous of what? Eating at the table? Being treated like a person? Chloe's face tightened. "You hate that I have a life now. You hate that Deb is here. You hate that things are changing." I stared at her, and suddenly I saw what this was really about. Chloe was building her little adult world. Boyfriend, in-laws, future plans, and in her version of the story, there isn't room for me unless I'm quiet and accommodating. I'm a messy part, the inconvenient reminder that family isn't just pretty photos. "I don't hate your life," I said, voice low. "I hate that you're willing to erase mine to make yours look good." Chloe blinked like that had landed somewhere tender. Then she hardened again, "Because softness isn't safe in our house." "Whatever," she said. "Just don't make Gran pick sides." It's gross. That sentence made something cold settle in my stomach, because it framed my grandma standing up for me as me manipulating her, as me dragging her into it. "I didn't make Gran do anything," I said. "Gran has eyes." Chloe stared at me for a second, then pushed past me and walked outside, leaving the pantry door swinging. I stayed in the kitchen, hands braced on the counter, breathing too fast. The house smelled like sugar and ham and dish soap. My reflection in the microwave looked pale and tight. I could hear kids screaming outside with excitement over plastic eggs, the sound of joy happening in a different world. Mum came in a minute later, carrying a stack of plates. She didn't look at me at first. Then she said, casually, "Chloe's upset." I let out a breath that was half a laugh. "Of course she is." Mum's voice sharpened slightly. "You could have handled it better." "You stirred the hair." "Handled what?" Mum placed the plates in the sink with a little too much force. "Not sitting out there like that. Making it awkward. You know how your father gets when there's conflict." There was again. The family rule. Protect Dad from discomfort. Protect the vibe. Protect the appearance. "So I should have just eaten on the steps," I said, and my voice cracked on the end because I couldn't believe we were saying it out loud. Mum sighed, tired and annoyed. "It was one lunch, Sharon." "It's never one lunch," I said quietly. My throat burned. "It's always me." Mum's face softened for a fraction of a second, just enough to show she knew. Then she looked away, because knowing and changing are different things. "I don't want drama," she murmured. "I don't want drama either," I said. "I want a chair." Mum pressed her lips together like she was holding back something. Finally, she said, "Chloe has a lot going on." "You stirred the hair." "So do I." Mum's eyes flicked up, quick. "You're older. You can handle more." And there it was. The whole family logic in one sentence. You're older. You're sturdier. You can be sacrificed. I felt a calm settle over me that scared me a little because it wasn't numbness. It was clarity. "I'm going to go," I said. Mum's head snapped up. "Don't. I'm not making a scene," I said. And even I heard how practiced that line was, how often I've had to promise my existence wouldn't inconvenience anyone. "I'm just leaving." Mum's voice went small, urgent. "Your grandmother will worry." "I'll call her tonight," I said. "I'll see her this week." "Just her." Mum swallowed, eyes shiny. "Why can't you just let it go?" Because letting it go has always meant letting it happen again, I thought. But I didn't say that. I just shook my head gently, grabbed my bag from the hallway, and walked out. Outside, people were laughing again. Chloe was crouched near the kids, performing joy like nothing happened. Dad was by the grill, talking loudly. Grandma looked up when she saw me, and her face tightened with concern. I walked to her and squeezed her shoulder. "I love you," I said softly. "Thank you." Her eyes held mine. "Don't let them make you small," she whispered. I nodded, even though my throat felt like it was closing. "I won't." I left without fanfare. No slam doors. No speeches. Just a quiet exit, the kind that still gets narrated later as dramatic, because my family needs a villain to keep their story tidy. In the car, my hands shook on the steering wheel. I sat there for a minute before turning the key, breathing through the tightness in my chest. My phone buzzed. "Chloe, you always ruin everything." "Mom, please don't do this." "My brother. Dad says you're overreacting." I stared at the messages until the screen dimmed. Then I put my phone face down in the passenger seat and drove home. That night, Grandma called me. Her voice was gentle, but there was steel under it. "I'm sorry," she said. "You don't have to be," I replied, and my voice cracked because I wanted to sound stronger than I felt. "I do," she said, "because I've watched this happen for years. I watched them make excuses for what they shouldn't." I swallowed hard. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Grandma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You stop accepting the back steps. And the thing is, I've spent so long trying to earn my place at that table that I didn't notice how absurd it is to have to earn a chair in your own family." I don't know what happens next. I know Chloe will tell the story like I stormed out and made it about me. I know Mom will frame it as my sensitivity. I know Dad will act like it's all ridiculous and then punish me with silence until I apologize for making him uncomfortable. But I also know what it felt like to sit on cold stone steps with a plate on my knees while my family ate inside. I know what it felt like to hear Chloe lie and say I like eating outside. I know what it felt like when my mom whispered, "Are you happy now?" like my dignity was an inconvenience. And I know what it felt like when my grandma carried my plate inside like it belonged there. I'm tired of being the person who takes whatever scrap of belonging they toss my way and says thank you. I'm tired of proving I can be easy. Next time there's no room, they can figure it out before I arrive, or they can do it without me. Because I'm done eating on the back steps, just so everyone else can keep pretending the table is big enough.